What's up, guys? Welcome back to Duster Bust. Happy Sunday. As you can see, finally hit a big milestone. We got the paint job done. So I'm going to take a minute, talk about the recap of the painting, what went well, what didn't, show you a few spots on it, and then we're going to talk about next steps. Where are we going in the next couple weeks? Alright, so I went with a single stage urethane paint, and basically that means that there's no clear coat on top. So the single stage, and then the urethane is just, the formulation. I bought mine from TCP Global. There's some more information on the specifics on what I used in a video I posted a few weeks ago, Mopar colors, high impact colors, so check that video out, I'll link it below. But this is it. So this is the top banana Dodge color, or lemon twist was the Plymouth color that they used back in the early 70s, and this is the color that I decided to go with. As a whole, I'm very happy with it. I will say that anybody who's good at body work, my hat is off to you, because there's plenty of spots. You don't have to look far to see imperfections. So if you're good at it, congrats to you. It is hard work. So now that it is painted, you can see imperfections that you couldn't see before. So I missed a few spots, but that's okay. And hopefully the lighting comes out okay. But let's just take a look around. Okay, so things to mention. In general, there is, the orange peel is there. I believe that'll buff out. There's also a bunch of little kind of speckles on top. I also think that that should buff out. So that I'm not too worried about. There are, so starting with the roof here, there's a lot more dents than I noticed before. Even when I had it all as bare metal, you really couldn't see the dents, but I mean, it's been sitting outside for the better part of 40 years. It is what it is. But yeah, definitely a few dents. Hopefully it's less visible once we polish it. So there was a bunch of damage in here before from a tire chain that came off and just beat it up. So I took off probably 3/8 of an inch or more of body filler in some spots. And at the time, I had commented to myself that, whoever was doing this was lazy and they didn't even try to straighten it out. And I thought that I was able to straighten it out a little bit more, and then I body fillered it. And I don't know if this camera angle will catch it. If not, I'll try to put some pictures up. But you can see all kinds of little dents still from that. So, to quote one of the expressions my father used to use is that looks like hammered shit. And I think, that would be a good description for this. Hammered shit section. All right. The markers, I wanted to remove the marker lights just to have a nice clean look. You can see a little bit of a discoloration, a little bit of a lump there. It is what it is. I still think I'm still glad that I did it, but it is visible on both sides. You can see a little bit of an imperfection. Down here, remember this was all rotted out, so this is pretty much all, like where my hand goes here, pretty much all new metal, and then this part was all rotted out as well. So this did not, the body filler work just didn't come in as well as I would have liked. You can still see a few lumps in there. Big improvement from what it was, but far from a professional job. This one, not a big deal, but just funny to me that there is a big dent right here. I can almost put I can feel my finger in this divot. I went through and I just totally missed this big dent. This line is nice, this line is nice. A little bit of a bump right there again on the marker light. Overall, good though. But I get this two things. So this had to be all patched in here, and you can see this line kind of fades for a second and then comes back. So here, doing the filler work in here, just I just didn't do it well. So, and then here, you know, this was all new metal welded in through here, and one of the lines from the joint ended up showing through a little bit. So you can see an extra line there. So that's kind of the bad. The good stuff. All right, so the C-pillars looked like crap before, but we got that all cleaned up, and I'm actually really happy with this. This is one of the spots that I thought was just a major eyesore before. Looks really good now. The inside came out pretty good. You know, the trunk looks decent. As a whole, just feeling everything now, it just feels great. You know, it feels like nice, shiny, new metal. Like I want to touch it. As before, you know, working on stuff, every time I'd have my hand on some stuff, I'd always feel dirty afterwards. This just feels awesome. And then there's a few little discolor. You don't have to look far to find imperfections, but you know what? Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. I think it looks freaking awesome. I'm thrilled as hell, both that it's done, that it looks good, and to be moving on to other stuff. So I'm gonna come through and polish it here. I'm gonna give it a while to cure. So sometime in the next few weeks, I'll come through and kind of wet sand it or polish it, and hopefully we get a little bit of the grittiness out. But at the end of the day, I'm really happy with it. It's important to be clear on your objective. My objective is not to make a show car. It's a good thing I'd be failing at my objective. But my objective is not to make a show car. My objective is to make something that's pretty badass and to do it myself. And I think this is pretty badass, and I did it myself. So I'm calling it a win. The goal is to have something that looks pretty cool and is fast. And it's time to start focusing on the fast part, or at least let's start focusing on getting something that moves. So that is it for body work for now. I am sick and tired of body work. Let's move on to some more fun stuff. Welcome to the downstairs, the basement. It's a huge mess, so sorry for the mess. Let's focus on some fun stuff. So we now need to get this thing moving. So it is ready to get some parts put back onto it. I had started working on some of this stuff back many months ago when it was, I didn't have the garage heater at the time. So I was doing a few things down here. So the rear end, so 8 1/4 rear end on the Duster 360s, and it is pretty much ready to go back in. But we'll talk about that more next week. So we'll open it up, we'll do an inspection of a few things on it, talk about the parts that are in it, talk about the parts that we might upgrade to in the future, and then also drum brakes. So focusing on the rear end right now. So these drum brakes need to go back onto it. I'll talk about what parts that I bought to refresh the drum brakes. And we're gonna, with any luck, oh, sorry, that was getting a little heavy. So next week, we're gonna put the brakes back on and hopefully stretch goal, maybe even get this thing mounted back on the car. Oh, almost forgot. The leaf springs. So I also bought some new leaf springs, and I'll do a separate video where I wanna break down some of the differences between the stock leaf springs and these Mopar, these performance ones that I forgot the name of them, but I'll have that detail, and we'll talk about differences between the two sets of springs. So yeah, that's it. The goal for the next week to 2 weeks is basically to get the rear end built up again, get the brakes back on here, get the rear end put back together, put some oil in it, get the leaf springs back on. I gotta make sure I have all the right bushings and everything, but I wanna get the rear end bolted back together and rolling. So that is the goal for next week. If this sounds interesting at all, hit subscribe and stay with us as we try to get our 74 Duster 360 back to life and hopefully hitting the streets sometime early next year. So thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.